There haven't been any general directs thus far this year, and there really haven't been that many retail releases on Switch thus far this year. There have been a ton of delays thus far this year, and E3 2020 is already falling apart. In fact, globally, it's been a pretty crummy start to 2020. So I've been feeling desperate for a great game on Switch. Something that I could fully get behind and say, this one is recommendable across the board. This one is added to the top tier of those lovely Switch games that I am so passionate about. So I've been waiting, and I've been waiting. Finally freaking found it. Kunai, my friends, is the coolest. It is one of those top tier eShop games. It is climbing quicker and quicker, closer and closer to the upper echelon with Celeste, Katana Zero, Hollow Knight, games of that sort. You may not have heard of it. You may have just passed it over, but do not sleep on Kunai. This game has won my heart. I beat this one so quick, and not because the game is too short, but because I just could not put Kunai and my Switch Lite down. Once I picked it up, I was so hooked from start to finish, because Kunai puts on a display of charming animation with a cohesive, cool world, super fun and exciting gameplay that is always rewarding, traversal that is fluid, and a challenge that isn't punishing. This is a game that multiple times, once I saw how good it was, I was like, you know what? I just gotta clap it up. I just gotta clap it up for this game because they do so much so well. And today I'm gonna tell you all about it. What's going on, everybody? It's Zach from SwitchForce. I love these moments when I feel so strongly about a title. I actually played Kunai for the first time about a year ago. It was PAX East 2019, so yeah, exactly about a year ago. And I saw this game with this little computer tablet character from this small indie developer, Turtle Blaze, who I'd never heard of before. And you had these kunai that function more as grappling hooks than weapons, but you had a sword, and you fought other computers. I thought it was a cute game with not much to it. And then the price point was $16.99. I was like, okay, it's going to be a pretty simple affair. Boy, was I wrong. Boy, am I glad that I was wrong, because Kunai, it's got an insanely rewarding loop. The more you play, the more you uncover. There is depth here. And we're not talking peel back the layers and get an onion and cry depth. We're talking Christmas present. The more you unbox, the more fun you have. So what exactly is Kunai? And why am I so excited about this game? Well, the best comparison I can give you, Kunai is most similar to SteamWorld Dig 2. And if you know me, I love SteamWorld Dig 2. I love the SteamWorld games. And there's a lot of similarities between these two. In fact, if you think about it, they're very comparable because both games involve a world filled by robots. Both games involve collecting currency to upgrade your character and weaponry. Both games involve a pretty charming storyline, more than you might expect from a side scroller. And both games involve going down deep into the earth and uncovering some bad beasts. Kunai, though, does things in its own way. It's got its own style, its own charm. It's got this Game Boy-esque visual style that I think is so cool. It messes with muted tones and colors, slight variations to create distinct worlds that you'll travel between. A haunted house, an airship, an underground city. There's a lot there, and they don't have that complex of graphics. In fact, your character is literally a square tablet named Tabby. But it's so fun, because it starts off with you having kunai and a sword. I honestly thought the game may not go much further than that. I thought it would be a fun adventure with a sword and kunai, but you quickly are getting SMGs, rocket launchers, upgrading your individual skills, being able to launch yourself with the kunai. So much is happening. And I want to start with that gameplay loop that I think is so constantly rewarding. And I think you're going to find it so fun if you give it a shot. Because in Kunai, they have set up this brilliant system where when you kill enemies, you receive currency and you receive health back. So you're always encouraged to fight. You're always encouraged to face off against a pretty eclectic variety of enemies, learn what their weaknesses are, and take them out, because it's beneficial to you in two ways. You use that health, obviously, to continue progressing, and you use that currency to upgrade Tabby and his set of weapons. I love that they do this because it makes everything you do feel valuable. One of the big downsides of a Metroidvania where you have to backtrack a decent amount is you just want to skip over everything. You just want to get through everything as quick as possible, stop fighting the same enemies, but here it's rewarding you for participating in the gameplay. It helps that the combat is fun, it helps that it's fluid, it helps that it controls super well. I felt like I had full control over Tabby, and it's a brilliant game to jump and stab down, aim in the air, fire the machine gun, switch weapons, throw a star. There's a lot going on, and you have a variety of tactics to use to combat, whether it's a big hulking foe with a shield, a little guy dashing back and forth, a flyer who's trying to come in for a bombing run, and then the bosses, baby. The bosses is where all the combat comes together. And it's those tried and true boss battles where you gotta memorize some patterns. Some people don't like that, but me being a little older, coming from the NES and SNES days, I love boss battles where you gotta really get in the head of the boss, learn what they're doing, and master it. So yeah, you might die a few times as you try to figure out the third attack, the fourth attack, the fifth stage where things get a little bit more frenzied and everything is so fast. But when you learn it and you beat it, I feel like that is so satisfying. And it's smartly laid out because you won't die all that often in the world. You'll die a decent amount to the bosses. But if you utilize the save and restore rooms where you regain health, and you utilize the enemies that you kill to gain more health, and you find some of the hidden upgrades to boost your health meter, you're going to be surviving. This game is challenging but not punishing. And what I mean by that is so many games as of late feel the need to be punishing. Dark Souls set this new style, this new tone that said, to be fun, you must be super hard. Now, I believe that Kunai is a challenging game. That final boss took me a long time, and there are certain segments that are pretty difficult. There's some combat arena rooms that are really tough, but it's not punishing because you don't lose anything on death, and they give you a substantial health bar so you're able to combat and fight off most of your adversaries and obstacles with not ease, but the ability to stay alive. And then the platforming, the traversal, falls right in line. You know how a lot of games you hit a pit and you die and it's over? Kunai is so fun to move around in because there's so much momentum with those grappling hooks, and you can swing and you can launch yourself, you can double jump, but also because if you fall, there's a lot of verticality here. If you fall, you just get back up and keep going. There are very few one and done deaths in this game. Very few instances where something will hit you or you'll fall and just be done. You got a pretty substantial health bar, so it's not frustrating. You might be climbing, running up the walls, swinging, and then fall, but you don't die, so you just get back up and go again. Or you find a new path. They're really good at making multiple routes through the biggest environments. You don't feel like you're tied to one set path. I love a game like Celeste, but thank goodness Celeste has such fast reloads because you die over and over and over and over, and you got to be perfect. I like that Kunai is forgiving in its traversal. I like that it's challenging, but not punishing. Do you see where I'm going with this? It's really important, I think, to have a game that plays out like that to maintain fun. You don't have to be devastatingly difficult in order to appeal. And in fact, sometimes those games are more frustrating than they are good. And your satisfaction is just that it's over versus feeling truly rewarded for completing a mission or a level or a segment or the entire game. It's really easy to say that a game is addictive, but I like to try and think about exactly why I'm so hooked, why Kunai is so engaging. And I think it goes like this. You enter a new area and the color palette shifts, slightly because the tones are muted, but it shifts. You know you're in a new place because you start to see new enemies that are tied to that area. You can take them down, but it's difficult, so you know there's probably an upgrade along the way that will help you fight these foes a bit better. You kill a few, you collect some currency, you regain some health. You find a resistance base, some friendly faces. You spend some coins at the shop to upgrade your Tabby a little bit further. Then you talk to some friendly faces at the base, and you hear an anecdote that hints at the area's big boss or big idea. You venture back out and eventually find the upgrade that is native to that level, and now you can tear through the enemies that are native to that level. So now you're traversing, climbing, looking at the great verticality with ease. You're tearing through the enemies, you stumble upon the boss, and it is a showdown. You die a few times, but you want to beat this. You learn the pattern, you take down the boss, you feel satisfied, you get a cool little Tabby cutscene, and you move on. You enter the next area, the color palette shifts, and you get to do it all again. The game builds and builds. It keeps you hooked. It never lets go because everything you do leads to something more, leads to the next upgrade, leads to the next boss, leads to the next area. There really isn't downtime. And it's fluid in the way that you navigate and traverse. It's fun in the way that you fight and gain. It's just so good. And that's how it feels to play Kunai. Now, Kunai doesn't have specific missions. You'll be going through an ever-expanding world, and you will be backtracking at times. But I love it. It's this robotic computer world. I think it's so darn charming. I know that gameplay is paramount. That's the most important. But let me tell you, had this game had a very generic pixel art, you're just like a, I don't know, you're a warrior going to save the princess, it would not be as memorable as it is. It would be good. The gameplay would stay the same, but it would not make me smile, it would not stay with me, and it would not be one that elevates way above, because there are a lot of good Switch eShop games. There are a lot of cool mechanics, a lot of really neat details that make games special. Kunai is super special, because dude, when Tabby is running across the screen, smiling with his eyes and mouth so wide, you can't help but feel like this guy is somebody you'd want to be friends with, even if he is so far from real. And he gets so excited when he finds a hat. Did I tell you there's collectible hats? Ugh! Collectible hats is a thing also that SteamWorld Heist did, so these guys must have played the SteamWorld games. But I love going and finding new hats. There's a Scouter, like a Dragon Ball Scouter. There's just some goofy hats like a dinosaur helmet. There's like a miner's helmet. There's a bandana. There's a lot going on there. And every time Kunai and every time Tabby finds one of these, he gets so overjoyed. And it makes you overjoyed. You're like, gosh! This guy is so happy to be getting a new hat, and his facial expression when he's fighting good and so nitty gritty. I love it. And I love that everyone you run into is a robot. I love that the story isn't some like big, massive humanity versus robotics. It gets a little poetic towards the end, but there's these cool cutscenes that show Tabby in action. I'd be down for a Tabby animated series. I like him that much. And I think it's just fun that they use a limited color palette, that they use a very simple character. He is literally a monitor screen, an iPad with eyes and a mouth, and you feel emotion, you see fun and joy, and it translates to improve your experience. Freaking love it. It's fun to traverse around the environment, it's fun to jump and swing, and there are obstacles besides enemies that you'll have to kind of go through. Some gauntlets of spinning spiky gears and a lot of floor spikes that want to kill you, some smashy things. It's got Mario elements in there as well. The platforming is never anywhere near the level of Celeste. It's far more forgiving and fun than it is super difficult, but I think for this style of game it works well. I do have a few gripes and nitpicks I'll highlight here. One, I wish the load times were a wee bit shorter, but that's a minor one. They're not so bad, and as I mentioned, you don't die all that often. There are a lot of different save rooms. Sometimes they're awkwardly spaced, but if you explore and uncover the map, you'll be fine. I do wish that the game was better about telegraphing where you needed to go for the backtracking segments. Because sometimes they'll say, oh, go back to the haunted house, to the mech room, and I don't remember where the mech room is because it's just a very basic map, and there's a lot of rooms, and I've been a lot of places. I've been playing this game for hours and hours, and I don't got a clue where I gotta go. So there were times where I literally had to draw my way, walk my way through the entire area and figure out, where I needed to go. I think they could have done a better job of just like throwing more objective markers onto that map so you were directed. But luckily the traversal is fun, luckily the enemies are beneficial, and luckily it's never that frustrating, so this wasn't too big of a detractor. I'd call it a medium-sized gripe. Kunai is also one of those games where you get better as you go, and the things you're doing at the end are far more impressive than the things you were doing at the beginning. I love that, where you see your skill progress as the character unlocks more and more skills. You're getting better at the game, so by the end you feel like a pro. And the final boss, without any spoilers, is the perfect example of that. You gotta be quick on your toes, you gotta be quick with your weapons, you gotta be good with everything. There's some nice escape sequences as well, and I love these in Ori and the Blind Forest. We got Will-o'-the-Wisps coming soon. I hope it eventually hits Switch. But if you like those segments and remember having to race out of an environment, you got a few of those in Kunai. It adds to the variety and shows how diverse and versatile that traversal can be, because it's not just used for grappling up to a certain spot or leaping over a pit, but it can be used in much faster paced sequences, and it works wonderfully. If I had to pinpoint the intangible that makes Kunai so special to me, I mean, the whole game is great. I think they execute outstandingly well in every area. Like, they check all the boxes. But if I had to try and describe the secret sauce that elevates Kunai, it honestly would be Tabby. And that may sound silly because, again, he's just a screen with eyes and a mouth. And it's a pretty simple but fun storyline. And there's no voice acting. But he's so darn charming. And he's so darn fun to move around. It's partially his look, it's partially his feel, but Tabby honestly is the star of the show. Dude, I want Tabby in some of those indie brawlers. You know how in like Brawlhalla, they throw in the indie characters? Put him in there. He is cool. I like him so darn much. And I think that's what helps Kunai stand out. I think it is the whole cohesive world, this idea that computers come to life. You buy your upgrades from a Wi-Fi router, and you have a little Wi-Fi signal that shows when you're getting close to a shop. It's clever. It's smart. These guys and girls that made this game took a look at what made SteamWorld Dig 2 successful, looked at what made Metroidvanias on Switch and the eShop fun. They brought a lot of those ideas together. They combined them. They moved them around. They added their own special sauce, and then they delivered a knockout main character and a super cool visual aesthetic style, and a challenging but not punishing gameplay idea that really helps Kunai raise straight to the top. I'm telling you, people are going to sleep on this for the eShop in 2020, but I'm telling you that this is one of the best eShop games that has ever released on eShop, not just this year. It is one of the best eShop games, and yeah, maybe it doesn't have the extra oomph to get right up there with Celeste or Hollow Knight or Katana Zero, but it is so close, my friends. I said time and time again in the game, I just want to clap. I'm going to do it right now. We're going to stand up. We're just going to clap for Kunai. We're just going to clap for Kunai. It made me so happy. In a year we don't have a General Direct, where there's hardly any games coming out, where things are getting delayed, where the year, it hasn't gone how a good year should go, but Kunai might be the game to turn the tides. We might be ready for a good stretch here. I love this game so much. I wish there was more. I remember back at PAX East, and it kind of feels like a fever dream, that there was like a speedrun type mode where you're trying to get through a labyrinth of enemies under a certain time, and I wish that was in the game. I don't know if they have plans to bring it in, but if the developers are watching, please add more content, whether it is some sort of cool like time trial challenge mode, or you got an extra level or boss or two. I would love to play more. I hit the credits. I went back to the title screen, and they do smartly let you jump back in pre-final boss if you want to go and seek out every upgrade, every collectible, and max out Tabby. But I just want more, because this is the kind of game that reminds me why I love video games and why I love that darn Nintendo Switch, whether it's an OG or whether it's a Lite, so much. Because you'll stumble upon an experience like this one on the eShop, and you'll go, dude, everyone's got to play it. And you heard it here first. Everyone's got to play Kunai. Until next time, everybody, thanks so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video. Give it a big thumbs up if you had fun today. Let me know if you plan on checking out Kunai, or if you have, do you feel like me? Do you feel differently? Did it win you over? Is Tabby the new plush, the Funko Pop you want sitting on your shelf? Give me your take in the comments down below. Until next time, everybody, thanks so much for watching. Have a great one. Be good to yourself and others out there. SwitchForce out.